In the news, President Buhari appoints new service chiefs. Political thuggery evident in 2020 Edo-Ondo elections. Nigerian Election Violence Report. Set up adaptation to climate change now or risk enormous toll, scientists warn. Central African Republic troops kill 44 rebels who surrounded capital. Biden endorses Trump impeachment trial. In business, Nigeria to rely on oil for next 30 years, NNPC GMD. On the entertainment scene, Ngozi Nwosu turns anti-COVID ambassador. And in sports, CAF releases draw details shortly. Do stay with us. Hello, welcome to TOS TV, your digital-first Pan-African network. I am Nkamiang John, and this is TOS News 360. We start with latest developments from the nation's capital, where President Muhammadu Buhari has accepted the immediate resignation of the country's service chiefs and their retirement from service. Now, those involved are the Chief of Defense Staff, General Adib Abayomi Olusegun, Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuku Burutei, Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Ibok Ewe Ibas, and Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar. Now, President Buhari thanked the outgoing service chiefs for what he called their overwhelming achievements in the country's quest at bringing enduring peace and wished them well in their future endeavors. The new service chiefs are Major General Leo Irabo, Chief of Defense Staff, Major General I. Ateiru, Chief of Army Staff, Rear Admiral A.Z. Gambo, Chief of Naval Staff, and Air Vice Marshal I.O. Amo, Chief of Air Staff. President Buhari has congratulated the new service chiefs and urged them to be loyal and dedicated in the discharge of their responsibilities. Now, Sunday Irabo's house is the house of the man at the center of the recent eviction controversy in Oyo State, southwest Nigeria. Sunday Adeyemo Igbo was raised in the early hours of Tuesday. Now, reacting after the house went up in flames, Igbo said the property was worth 50 million naira and had been lost to the inferno, adding that the arsonist broke the gate to the building to gain entrance before setting the house on fire, while the two people living in the building fled for their lives in the chaos. Igbo also stressed that he was not a political thug available for hire. Igbo, an Oyo indigene, has been a prominent figure in the recent tensions between herders and the local community in the Igbakbara area of Oyo State. Now, he had allegedly issued an eviction notice to the herders over allegations of kidnapping, killings, rape, and other violent activities. The ultimatum expired last week, and Igbo held a massive rally in the community, after which some houses and properties in the herders' settlements were torched. Now, according to the police, on Monday, Southwest leaders met with the Meheti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN, to find lasting solutions to the incessant killings, kidnapping, and cries between herdsmen and farmers in the Southwest geopolitical zone of the country. After the meeting, all parties agreed to ban night grazing and underage herding. Now, the illegal occupation of state forest reserves was also condemned at the meeting. In a related development, but this time in the southeastern part of Nigeria, where the Association of Southeast Town Unions, ASETU, has called upon President Muhammadu Buhari to call the Fulani Cultural Organization to order before they set Nigeria ablaze. ASETU said that the recent statement credited to the leader of Meiti Allah Kauta Haure Bello Bodejo, in which he, among other things, claimed that all the lands in the country belonged to them, was enough to cause unimaginable crisis in the country. The group, in a statement by its national president, Chief Emeka Digwe, and national secretary Gideon Adekwuru, declared that the Fulanis did not own any part of Igbo land, warning that Igbo would do anything to resist annexation of their ancestral land by invaders. ASETU noted that it was in relation to the threat posed by the marauding Fulanis that it had before now written to the United Nations and the United States over the nocturnal influx of aliens in a coordinated manner into Igbo forest. The town unions also stated that they had cried out over the wanton killings, rape, and destruction of farmlands which had become daily fact of life in Igbo forest. Now, meanwhile, mixed reactions have greeted the governor of Nigeria's south state of Rivers, Nyesom Wike's 500 million naira donation to Sokoto State. Now, Wike donated the sum last week to assist the governor, Aminu Tambowal's government, to rebuild a section of the Bond Sokoto Central Market. While the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and some aides of the governor defend the gesture, and All Progressive Congress APC former spokesman in the Rivers State, Chris Finebone, and an agitator, Sobomoba Jack Rich, described it as selfish and politically motivated. Jack Rich, who is the convener Network for Defense of Democracy and Good Governance, said his group was worried about the way Wike spends the state's resources. He explained that while the NDGG sympathized with the fire victims in Sokoto State, it was against the governor's decision to embark on an unaccounted obligation in the face of unpaid pensions to retired workers. Also, Finebone said Wike was playing Robin Hood with the Commonwealth of Rivers people. But the State Commissioner for Information and Communication, Paulinus Nsirim, described the criticism as very poor and sad reflection of who the Rivers people are. Now, the commissioner explained that the government had noticed in recent times the vehemence with which the APC apologists expressed their bitterness and selfishness each time Wike administration extended a hand of friendship and support to sister states. Also, the state chapter of the PDP, in a statement by its publicity secretary, Tambari Gabara, expressed surprise that Wike's patriotism had been politicized in some quarters without considering the substance of his gesture. The PDP described the criticism as uncharitable and ill-mannered, arguing that the act of giving to the needy remained a virtue sanctioned by God. Now, Nigerian Election Violence Reports Kimpact Development Initiative held a public presentation on election violence, reviewing the September 19 Edo and October 10, 2020 Ondo governorship elections. Now, according to the Executive Director, KDI Bukola Idowu, in his presentation of the final report, a total of 395 wards, 36 local government areas from the two states were monitored and assessed, with 85 Nigerian election violence report monitors and more than 700 citizens observers were involved to get the final report on the state's elections. Now, violence against women in election was one of the indicators assessed to come up with the final report, which was made public on Tuesday. From the data analysis Political thuggery is said to be the dominant risk factor said to be responsible for the electoral violence in the state. Despite this, the overall perception of individuals in the state says that the election was peaceful. The signing of the peace accord, particularly in the Edo election, is said to have contributed to the overall outcome of elections. Now,
the impact of the peace accord, and this is the response of the people. Now, for Edo, I think for Ondo, most people said it was impactful, 62%. This is Edo, 71% believe the stakeholders' engagement, most especially the peace accord signing, was very, very, they agree that it was very impactful.
Who had this to say on the prosecution of electoral violence perpetrators and effective data collection from rural areas.
In Ondo, over 157 cases of violence was recorded during that election, and the same goes for Edo. So it shows that we need to really step up. And of course, the election was adjudged peaceful, but with our record, with our findings, a lot of violence took place. What we have done is to see that most of the electoral offenders are prosecuted duly, because most when you don't prosecute them, now they grow wing and come back with full force and do it with impunity next time. What we did is that we did not even import people to those states to go and monitor. Indigenes and citizens of those states monitor this, so we are able to get those accurate data.
Now, subscribers seeking to link their National Identification Number, NINS, with their telephone numbers got a shocker Monday from the National Identity Management Commission, NIMSI, when they were told to come back on March the 22nd. Now, the extension granted by the federal government for them to synchronize their lines was initially to expire on February the 9th. Stakeholders in the telecommunications industry have asked the federal government to further extend the timeline of blocking people's subscriber identity model SIM cards. Now, desperate Nigerians who besieged the offices of NIMSI went back disappointed after they were given a March 22nd date for enrollment. Now to some COVID-19 updates, where we hear that the Kano State chapter of the Nigerian Medical Association, NMA, says it has so far lost 3 doctors to the coronavirus pandemic, while 53 others tested positive in the state. The state NMA chairman, Dr. Usman Ali, disclosed this in an interview with newsmen in Kano on Monday. He said some members of the association who recently underwent COVID-19 tests came out positive, adding that the association lost a doctor penultimate Monday, which brought the number to 3 in the state. This is your digital first Pan-African network, TOS TV network. You are watching TOS News 360. Stories from the international scene in just a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. We continue with developments on the international scene, where scientists, including 5 Nobel laureates, warned that a failure to respond to rising climate risk as governments try to revive their economies from COVID-19 woes would have severe consequences, especially for the poorest. Now, more than 3,000 scientists on Friday called for a far bigger global push to protect people and nature from the effects of a heating climate, even as researchers estimate funding to adapt to climate change has dropped because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The scientists from nearly 120 countries wrote ahead of a global summit on adaptation next week. In the statement, they said to avoid this development, major new efforts are needed to conserve nature, including forests, waterlands, and coral reefs, as it is a planning revolution to make cities transport, energy, and other infrastructure safer from climate shocks. Now, better education, especially for girls, and redeployment of the world's existing financial resources will enable adaptation on the massive scale required, they added. Now, alongside the COVID-19 crisis, late last year, we saw a surging heat, intensifying drought, and rampant wildfires, they noted, adding that the pandemic might have been avoided if the world had acted earlier to protect nature and prevent climate change. An AU report said that last week that funding was already falling far short of needs before the COVID-19 crisis, with an annual average of $30 billion available for adaptation in the 2017 to 2018. Now, estimates of the cost of adapting to climate change vary wildly, but the CPI and the GCA said adaptation finance is needed to increase by between 5 and 10 folds from its current levels. Only about 5% of all climate finances goes to adapting to more extreme weather and rising seas. The UN Secretary General and others have called for the share to be raised to half, especially in financial support for poorer nations. Now, the death toll from Storm Elios has risen to at least 12, according to figures from authorities across southeastern Africa, where heavy winds, rains, and flooding have also destroyed buildings and crops. A tropical cyclone, when it made landfall at Mozambique's central province of Sofala on Saturday, Elios subsequently weakened to a tropical storm as it moved inland to dump rain on Zimbabwe, Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland, South Africa, and Botswana. Now, 6 people were killed in Mozambique, the country's National Institute for Disaster Risk Management and Reduction reported, while the number of displaced people rose to more than 8,000. Homes, crops, and infrastructure were also damaged, flooded, or destroyed. Now, the death toll from flooding in Eswatini now stands at 2, according to police, while 3 people had been reported killed in Zimbabwe and 1 in Madagascar. Ongoing rains through lightning threatening further floods. Zimbabwe's National Water Authority also warned that the dams were spilling over and could cause flooding further downstream. Now, in central Mozambique, Elios excavated existing floods with villages and vast swaths of farmland submerged in brown water after rains busted their banks. Rainfall in Zimbabwe also runs back down into the country via those reservoirs which contribute to the devastating floods following Cyclone Idai in March of 2019. Elios is expected to move towards southwestern Botswana tomorrow, where it will cause heavy rainfall. More downpours are also expected in South Africa in the coming days. Now, officials in the Central African Republic say government troops have killed 44 rebel fighters who had surrounded the capital Bangui in an attempt to overthrow the new administration. A government spokesman told the French news agency that the soldiers had captured the village of Boda with the help of Russian paramilitaries. Now, there is no independent confirmation of the government claim, which comes days after it declared a state of emergency to fight the rebels who control 2/3 of the country. President Joe Biden on Monday offered his most extensive comments since taking office on former President Donald Trump's impeachment trial, telling CNN, and I quote, "I think it has to happen." Now, Biden made the comment during a brief one-on-one interview with CNN in the hall of the West Wing. He acknowledged the effect it could have on his legislative agenda and cabinet nominees, but said there would be a worse effect if it didn't happen. Biden told CNN he believed the outcome would be different if Trump had 6 months left in his term, but said he doesn't think 17 Republican senators will vote to convict Trump. His comments came the same night the House impeachment managers formally triggered the start of Trump's second impeachment trial after they walked across the Capitol and began reading on the Senate floor the charge against Trump, the first president in the history of America to be impeached twice. Now, this is your digital first Pan-African network, TOS TV network. You are watching TOS News 360. Still ahead, business, entertainment, and sports. To stay with us. I think he has found. Now, in business, despite making up just 0.1% of Britain's economy, fishing plays an oversized role in the brinkmanship leading up to December's Brexit, which played an oversized role in the brinkmanship leading up to December's Brexit agreement. Now, between London and Brussels, many Brexit supporters saw regaining control of the country's sovereign waters as totemic. Now, a month since the agreement was signed, many fishermen say they feel betrayed. Under the deal, a quarter of Europe's boats' fishing rights in British waters will be transferred to British boats over the next 5 years. Now, nearly half of the fish caught by the British boat is exported to European Union, a trade worth over $1.8 billion in 2019. Now, Brexit has brought new broader checks, paperwork, and of course, cost. It is not just fish they are wondering about. Other sectors are warning of a significant disruption as well. New tax rules have prompted some European retailers to stop selling to British customers, while some shipping firms have paused their cross-channel operations. Still talking business, this time Nigeria, where in spite of global energy transactions and Nigeria's government promises of diversifying the economy, the group managing director, GMD, of the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, Mele Yari, says that Nigeria will continue to run a monocultural economy for the next 30 years. Kyari made this revelation at a 2-day public hearing by the Joint Committee on Petroleum Downstream, Upstream and Gas, declared open by the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan. He said the absence of robust legislation to guide the sector has continued to bedevil it, leading the nation to lose huge revenue, but expressed confidence that the proposed Petroleum Industry Bill, PIB, would change the narrative by boosting growth in both the upstream and downstream sectors of the oil industry. However, he maintained that the bill, in all its good intentions, omitted deep water exploration and the benefits it would offer Nigeria. Now, President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, assured stakeholders on the first day of the hearing that the PIB will be passed by April, while the Senate will secure a presidential assent by May 29th. This is your digital first Pan-African network, TOS TV network. You are watching TOS News 360. Still ahead, business and entertainment and sports. Still TOS News 360, and we go straight to entertainment, where veteran Nigerian actress and producer Ngozi Nwosu has taken it upon herself to caution Nigerians to be more mindful of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the self-appointed anti-COVID-19 ambassador, popularly known as IJ Ngbomps, over the weekend issued stern warnings to Nigerians to adhere strictly to COVID-19 protocols. She particularly issued special caution to churchgoers on Sunday. The 57-year-old Abia State-born actress, who grew up in Lagos and speaks both Igbo and Yoruba, decided to give a message in both Yoruba and Igbo to Nigerians. Now, away from entertainment to sports, where ahead of the 2021 Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations soccer Continental Governing Body CAF has conducted a draw for the competition. Now, the draw, which was conducted at Yaoundé, Cameroon, shows 12 teams being drawn into 3 groups of 4 teams. Group A consists of the host Mauritania, Cameroon, Uganda, and Mozambique, who will be playing in the competition for the first time. In Group B, Burkina Faso, eliminated in the group stage of the previous edition, will face 3 debutants, Tunisia, Namibia, and the Central African Republic. Lastly, in Group C, Ghana and Morocco, 2 former winners of the competition, will start as favorites ahead of the Gambia and Tanzania. More sports. This time, Nigeria's Athletics Federation, AFN, has disclosed that its Olympic-bound athletes are not ready for the Tokyo 2021 Olympics in Japan, billed for July this year. Now, AFN Technical Director Sunday Adeleye made this known in an exclusive interview with journalists over the weekend. Adeleye said Nigerian athletes are not ready for the Global Summer Olympics, scheduled to commence in 5 months, due largely to the fact that the Federation, as well as the athletes, have not received support from the federal government for effective preparations. And that's TOS News 360, your digital-first Pan-African network. For more updates, do visit our website, www.tostvnetwork.com. Do follow, like, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram handles. And remember, TOS TV is also available on TS TV as TOS News on channel 138. Do stay with us and enjoy more programs on TOS TV network. I am Nkamian John. Bye for now.